Pretty good.
Should we get started or should we wait a little bit to have more quorum?
Maybe we wait a few more minutes. I know Mitch was definitely planning to join.
No, Mitch
And
Mitch told me like he will be 20 minutes late.
oh, okay, interesting. Okay. Cool. Well, maybe we get started then. It's up to you, Zep, your host.
Yeah, I think, and actually, I mean, yeah, I think we can, like, if we talk all everything that we need to talk, and then yeah, we can, if we keep it under an hour, then we can also keep discussing on other stuff. Actually, like the main focus was on how to use the money, not so much in the debate that was generated in the forum. But then I also think it's worth talking, especially at the beginning. So yeah, like the intro question is like, how do you envision laser tag, or what do you understand? What do you think laser tag is doing? And then yeah, how do you see it in the long run? And then yeah, the intention is also to keep it under a minute. So yeah, for me, laser tag, it was like just a thing that must was needed just because we didn't have like how to DAO it. Right now we have an agent, so it shouldn't be necessary anymore. So yeah, how I envision laser tag is just holding this initial buy, do what needs to be done, like do all this swap and all these things, and then when thus it's done, then send it to the agent. But yeah, I'll pass it to Nate.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of options that we can use for the laser tag wallet. I just one of the aspects is that I just think it needs to be strictly defined, and making sure that there's some kind of accountability towards it, because I know that a lot of the people on the laser tag wallet are not interacting with the day-to-day aspects of the TEC, and so that is a little bit of concern for me. But yeah, outside of that, I think there are a lot of options that can be explored. So I'll pass it to Livy.
Thank you. I really think of like how grateful I am that I'm not in laser tag, and just that how I was proposing myself to be more involved in the beginning, but how I don't really understand all the implications of it, and I'm not sure how to start to understand more. Like I read the posts, but then still I have such open questions of like, how are the funds being handled? What are the best options for, what are even the more ethical options of how to manage the funds? So in this proposal with the give token, for example, I think it's a great idea to generate like together projects that are partners, that are close, and then start to create a revenue out of that. And then how could we include other projects? It feels like starts to open up for like partnership conversation, and give it, of course it's like really close to us, but how can we open the same opportunity for other partners that we have in the TC? And yeah, I wish I couldn't. I think I understand, but I wish I could like know for sure that I understand. And I'll pass to it.
Thank you, Livy. I feel the same like you. like, yeah, I don't have a clear opinion. I actually came to listen to this call mainly because I have a hard stop, but also because I wanted to sort of understand more. So yeah, I will reserve my opinion until I have more criteria, and I will pass it on to Maman.
Well, likewise, I'm here to listen. I'm still developing my opinion. I want to see what others are thinking, and yeah, at this point, I don't have anything to add. So I'll pass it to Chewy.
Thanks, Manu. Yeah, and in my case, and also to be honest, I haven't been following this conversation. It's just something that I haven't had like the bandwidth to cover. So yeah, I thought that attending the council today was going to be a great opportunity to also be a listener. And yeah, definitely have like 90 messages to catch up with on Telegram. And I know that probably this is just attracting a lot of different opinions. So yeah, I'm here to listen as well. I'll pass it to Septi.
I think we all went, right?
I didn't have a chance to go yet.
Oh, yeah, got them.
Well, I guess I'd say that I'm also in many ways here to listen too. So I'm so glad that Zeptimus is hosting this, and that what I think laser tag, or I envision for it in the long run, is that I think it's a way for us to have some access to liquid TEC, basically, or TEC that we can then use for liquidity pools or partnerships. And I've also haven't really had the bandwidth to make any proposal for it, or to even fully understand what some of the proposals were. I think that the proposal from Mitch was pretty clear for the XDI TEC, but I didn't fully understand. I think the other one, there's another proposal for a Honey TEC liquidity pool. So I think what I would hope to get out of this maybe is some sort of like, cost benefit around like the proposals. The proposals are can be easy to understand what the execution is, but I think what people are interested in understanding is what is the benefit or what is the risk. So I think that we would have more people able to vote for proposals of using the TEC tokens that we have. I think it's like 118,000 now. If we could help people understand the benefits and the risks associated with the proposal on the table. And I guess that's what I want to say. I guess I'm not as worried. I don't really have any concerns about the multi-sig, or that, I think half or more than half people are incredibly active. Zargam, okay, maybe he's not active, but he's extremely invested, as well as Paul and Gabby. So I feel like I don't have so many concerns about the multi-sig holders themselves. Also, as Zeptimus fought hard for, the multi-sig holders are just the executors of the proposals that pass by the community. So as well, I don't think that any of us would be derelict of duty on that front. And then I'll pass back to you, Zep, if we've all gone already.
Yeah, thank you, Tam. I actually want to say, like, for me, like, like having the multi-sig, having trends, not trend. But yeah, these people who is like Paul, that they are not very active. As long as they pick the bottom, I think that's actually the best thing. Because, like, I feel like if in the multi-sig, the people who's more active is in there, like if it was me, Mitch, I don't know, Tam, or everyone who's very active in laser tag, I feel like it's dangerous. So I actually like the way it is. And then at the beginning, I feel like there's so there's I'm not misunderstanding, but I feel like it's necessary to explain like the three ways we have to handle. Like we have this GiveTC that already passed for 20K, and then this money could either be on laser tag, it could go to the agent that's controlled by the DAO, and then also like we can also, we have to reach an agreement with Give that we didn't did, so it's not for this proposal, but for future ones. Like we could also make permanent liquidity, which means like we could, for example, have TC Bright tokens, then we burn the LP tokens, then this liquidity is there in Uniswap forever, but no one can touch the funds. That's a bit more radical, but yeah, I would like to explain also like the three, for example, like the benefits I see having laser tag over the agent would be like, it's easier, we don't have steps. It would make sense. Then the age, like because what the agent does is like all the decisions are going to be made by the DAO, but then this agent needs, like Sem built this agent for this purpose, but then it's missing some permissions that we should add them, and then yeah, the agent would work like with DAO voting. So if we would like to access funds from this agent, LaserTag funds or this give or whatever we want, we should do it with DAO voting. And yeah, I mean, right now the cons I see for the agent is like we need Mitch to do it. Otherwise, I don't know anyone that can do it for us in the TC. And if we had to ask Sam or Paulo, they would probably charge quite some money. So yeah, that's the cons I see in the agent. And then in permanent liquidity, it's like agreement for the whole life, like forever. And then what would happen in this case, for example, like if you have the TC and the GIF and then you burn those LP tokens, what would actually happen is like, this LP token that is there that no one can access there, it would be generating fees that would be staying in this LP that no one can access. So it would actually create some demanding supply from TC and Give, which is good in my opinion. Like some tokens would be, every time would be less TC accessible for the market, which makes like actually like a good thing. I don't. Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I was gonna say I feel like that would be a good idea if it wasn't, the token wasn't on a bonding curve and it didn't have a limitless supply. If we had a cap on the supply of the token, then that would make a lot of sense to me because you're reducing the amount of circulating supply, and that's good. But I think having the agent itself being an autonomous manager of those funds. I think what Mitch was saying before is that if we do that, there's no way we can remove those funds, that LP, ever again. So if we, for example, hypothetically wanted to move to a different chain or whatever it may be, like we would lose those funds and we'd have to start liquidity provision all over again. And so having the LaserTag manage those funds allows them to move it in and out. And I think that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, those are just my thoughts around it. But I do think that before like anything, like I'm not so much concerned with the people that are managing the LaserTag, more so like what are we supposed, like what is the scope of the LaserTag wallet? Like what is it going to be managing? Is it going to be doing it for partnerships and liquidity? Is it going to expand to whatever it wants to do? Like I think we just need to establish boundaries for it.
Yeah, actually, to be clear, like everything that LaserTag can do, the agent can also do it. So, like if we have the money in the agent and we want to change to another layer of, like if we want to go to Polygon, we can do it with LaserTag and also with the agent. We cannot do that if we do permanent liquidity. Like if we burn the LPs, then there's no way like we can access to those funds anymore. But it doesn't mean like they are lost. Like they are in XDAI. Anyone could, get TC in XDAI and then bridge it to Polygon, which in my opinion is not that bad.
Can I just interrupt just to see if we're all understand what the concept of the agent is? Because I only heard about it maybe like when you and Mitch started talking about it in a forum post. So this agent is very new to me. And I don't know if everyone else feels the same way or if they fully understand what an agent is. So can you maybe Septimus or somebody define this for us?
It's part of the Aragon framework. And so it's basically a autonomous agent, if you will, that manages different wallets and can perform different on-chain actions that the DAO wants to dictate. So you can tell the agent, I want to move funds from this wallet to this wallet, and the agent will do it on the DAO's behalf. I think that's the most simplified version.
Yeah, totally.
Can I ask maybe a dumb question then? It's part of Aragon, but does that mean that Gardens is using some of the Aragon code base, or I guess it is using all of the Aragon code base? Is that correct? You? Okay.
That is correct. They're all apps, and so the agent is itself an app that can interact with all the apps within the DAO framework.
Zeptimus, you said that Sem created the agent, so help me square that.
We have 3 agents in the TEC garden. Like we have one that's holding the gardens funds, one on the bonding curve, and then this other one that Seb let it there for DAO operations, like these ones we're doing. Hey, Mitch. Actually, like what we did just now, like we just had an intro question on how do we envision the laser tag in the long run. So if you could say like how do you envision it in the long run, and then also I was explaining a little bit like the difference, like how to manage those LPs. What's the difference, like the pros and the cons for using it on the laser tag agent and permanent liquidity. So yeah, if you like to see like introduce like how you see envision laser tag in the long run.
Yeah, well, I think it's just a multi-sig that can hold basically all of these funds that we acquire maybe from LPing just by a group of TEC holders. And like we said before, like this is just doing what the community says via snapshot. So it's just like a safe place to park stuff, not necessarily to like sell it or that the group is going to like manage the funds independently. The important thing is that like permanent liquidity, the way that I understood that you explained it, is not a good idea. Like having funds that can't really be managed might hurt us in the long run, because realistically like stuff always changes and we end up having to manage this stuff anyway.
And then could you explain like what would you prefer, laser tag over the agent?
Well, I just don't see the reason. Like you have to set up all these permissions and stuff, and then like ideally like it becomes unmanageable through the agent. Like you need to pass a DAO vote with 10% quorum just to like approve a spend or something like that. Like feasibly, like how blockchain works, like it would be very, very inefficient. And there's already like layers of decentralization, so we have the snapshot vote, we've got the multi-sig of people that we like picked as a community to be on it. So it's like, I don't see why we need to add this extra step.
But we also need the quorum.
Sorry, can I ask a dumb question before you keep going that road? Can you clarify why what is the difference punctually into a multi-sig and an agent? One is automatic and the other one not, basically?
I mean, one is the DAO deciding and the other one is 7 people deciding. That's the only difference.
No, Zepti, that's not true. I just told you, the community decides. Like,
no, we're saying that the community decides, but the community is not, like if the 7 people in the laser tag want to sell the funds, they can do it. It's not like, no, like we could have all these funds in my wallet and I say, oh, I will do whatever the community says, but I could not do that.
So you're saying that like these 7 people can't be trusted.
Can I just have a counterpoint? If the people on the laser tag multisig decide to use the funds in a way that is not approved by the community, we have a much bigger problem in the TEC, because I think that it would be an exceptionally, like, in fact, it'd be an exceptional circumstance for that to have to happen. It would basically be everyone who has invested years in the TEC suddenly deciding to abandon the TEC. And I would agree with Mitch on this. I wouldn't say that the multi-sig holders are the custodians for the community, but they don't make the decisions. They execute the decisions of the community.
With that being said, that because Zepti is technically correct. Like there can be collusion, and yes, that would be a bigger problem than just the multi-sig and all that. However, if we do give the discretion, which gives us more flexibility in managing the funds, which I agree with, then we need to really establish the scope of what the laser tag funds can be used for and how they are used. Because I don't know if we have any documentation around what can be used and what the purpose of that wallet is. And I think that's very, very important to establish if we're going to give those 7 people discretion over that amount of funds.
But the thing is also, like, technically, like, the laser tag also need to pass the snapshot vote, who also have the quorum. So even technically, the agent is equal efficient as laser tag.
But I mean, it's easier to get 7 people to like sign a transaction. Like the thing is just like the delay of action creates like weird anomalies. You know, like we have this vote duration that can take several days up to a week, versus like getting a few people to like sign and hit quorum to like do something that's already been agreed upon by like a larger group. So like, for example, like to do the LP and token swap, like there's like 3 or 4 transactions that have to happen in order for this to be done. And so it's like, if each one had to go through a decision vote, that would take like a month, you know? Whereas it's like, we can decide that this thing needs to happen, and then the blockchain stuff can happen, and it can be done like within a day, hopefully, but 2 days max.
And the technical monitoring of an agent is far more inefficient than the social monitoring of the people managing the multi-sig. I think that it limits the amount of people who can actually monitor if we use the agent for these types of decisions, and doing on-chain votes, I agree, it takes a long time.
Yeah, I feel like, like, okay, it's like comparing Solana with Ethereum. Well, of course, Solana is faster. Is Solana cooler? I don't think so. Like, decentralization, in my opinion, matters.
I don't understand how that argument is relevant, Zep.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same. Like, like you're saying, like the community is deciding, but it's not the community deciding. It's 7 people deciding. Maybe they are doing what the community say, but if they don't want to, is that this system?
I wouldn't say deciding, but implementing. I think there's a big difference, because we as a community will decide through snapshot, and we will guide the 7 people who are in charge of the multi-sig on the decisions that we want to be made, and we expect them to implement them. And that takes, that there's layers of decentralization there, like Mitch said, that I think are valid. And as Tam said, if we make a decision as a community through snapshot and say we want this to be done with our multi-sig wallet, and they go and do something different, then we have huge problems. And I don't think an agent is going to be the use of an agent would avoid that issue either, because it's still managed.
There is a compromise that I thought of here. And so realistically, like doing all this transaction stuff to get the LP token, like that needs to be done by like a group of humans, but holding the LP token doesn't really need anything special to happen. And so like there is a way where the LP token, once it's done, could be held by the agent. And if we ever need to manage it, like it has to be sent to LaserTag or some other entity that's actually like, if something happens and we have to manage it or migrate it, then like that can take place there. And so like this is the in-between that I think can work, and like sending the tokens from the agent to anywhere else would have to pass the decision vote. And so it would become manageable, but then like the community would need input in order to decide like to send it somewhere to be managed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, that's what all the DAOs are doing. Like they, and it doesn't have to be like the same. Like imagine like you're pushing the gift TC, then even it could be like, even in your wallet, Griff and Tam or whoever is working there, I host trusted. And then, but then the important thing is that the money end up in the agent. And then another thing I wanted to say before, like, if we have all the money in a multisig and we reply this system 1 million times, how many times, like, until a multisig misbehave? Like, is that replicable in the long, as a decentralized thing? That's what I wanted to say.
This is I think a little bit of what Gravity was talking the other day about prevention rather than reaction. I think we should prevent this by the culture that we're building, and this will sort of, avoid these conflicts with the multisig, rather than choosing the automatic option because it's the one that will, is the easy one, but at the end it's the most difficult one, and it will prevent us to create this culture. So yeah, I'm more in favor of creating a culture that prevents a multisig to do this rather than going for the automatic option, let's say, in a way.
There's no automatic option. Just
So I'm just trying to get my head. Sorry, I'm just trying to get my head around what the problem statement is. I think what we're saying, the problem statement, because I feel like there's a lot of different conversations, but we're really zoning in on laser tag versus agent. And so would it be correct to say that the problem statement is that humans are inherently fallible and we want to reduce the risk of trust of individuals, even if it is a 5 of 7 multisig? I actually forgot what it is. I think it's a 5 of 7 multisig. So the risk is that 5 of the 7 people in the multisig may collude, and we want to mitigate the risk of 5 of the 7 laser tag multisig holders colluding. Is that the correct problem we're solving for by proposing an agent?
I think so. I think it's like, do we want to have the trade-off? Do we want to rely on structure or culture? And that's the question.
Actually, yeah, that's correct. And I think like we could also keep this discussion in the forum, because what my goal for this call was actually like how to use that money, because I've been talking with some DAOs, and this agent laser tag thing came up in the forum when Mitch suggested like to save the funds on after doing the LP, save the funds on laser tag, and I was also suggesting using permanent liquidity, and then a middle ground is also the agent. But I think we can keep the discussion in the forum because we already used half of an hour of the call. So yeah, on the second, unless someone wants to say something.
So there's only one issue that I wanted to bring up, is that if we do choose to not have the automated agent do this, we have the ability of what do you call it? Contestability, disputability. Sorry. So if there's an action that the majority of us want and it votes through, there's no way to dispute that for anybody who disagrees within the community, and so we remove that type of function away from community members. I don't know if that's a problem for anybody, but I do see that.
I think there's only been like 3 cases that have been sent to Celeste or something. I could be wrong. Like in the whole gardens.
Yeah, that's correct. Just 3. Yeah, but
yeah, I just want to acknowledge that as we're talking about it, that if it is automated, we go through the agent, we do have the option to have disputable voting go through. But
yeah, well, I wanna push this. So I mean, in my head, there's a way that we can have both, and that's like laser tag doing all the blockchain stuff and transactions, and then like we could send it to the agent. This third agent, or I can set up the permissions that it's managed by decision voting or DAO voting. And so like sending the agent's tokens or executing actions through the agent would have to pass a decision vote. And so like if we ever needed to migrate it or manage it, like we could just send it back to laser tag or something else. And then the LP isn't lost to permanent liquidity, but it still is community managed, I guess.
yeah,
so
all the transaction bullshit like that can't be managed by DAO voting, because it's too slow and inefficient. Like it just wouldn't work.
So could we put the scope of different actions within the covenant itself?
I'm just thinking of a practical solution here with the LP, and like whatever you want to write into the covenant around it, or like sanctioned actions. I mean, go to town. But yeah, this is kind of how I think the best way of getting both things done.
Can you explain that one more time, Mitch? I didn't fully understand.
Yeah, so like when you make an LP, like in any circumstance, there's a lot of work. Like you have to send the tokens to the community that you're doing a swap with. You have to get it. You have to approve the spend. You have to create the LP. So there's like 3, maybe 4 transactions. I think there's only 3. And so to do this using an agent, it would take a really long time. And so we do all these transactions with laser tag and make sure we get 5 of the 7 signers. Once we actually have the LP tokens in the wallet of the multi-sig, we send it to this third agent that Zepti's talking about. And so the agent is holding it. We can set up this agent so that it can be controlled by DAO voting. And then effectively, like, we have this community managed liquidity, but if we ever need to do anything with it in the future, it can still be sent somewhere where it can be managed efficiently.
So to basically destroy the LP, we would want to, the DAO vote would be to send it back to multisig, so then multisig could destroy the LP and have the original tokens?
Yeah, exactly. Or whatever it is, you know, maybe splitting the LP, or who knows what would need to happen in the future, right?
Yeah, totally. Is there any more questions regarding this topic? Because I would love to go to the next one.
Okay, I mean, we could stop delving into this if you want, but I just have a question. So I think maybe some of us are getting our heads wrapped around it for the first time. So I like Zepti's idea of continuing this in the forum. But I would say, I guess the only disadvantage is if there needs to be a move fast, then it requires the DAO voting, and then a snapshot vote for the laser tag to actually do something with the LP tokens, right? So it would add extra time if we wanted to reverse out of an LP. But there may be other disadvantages. That's maybe just the first one that comes to mind.
A DAO voting could be even quicker than snapshot, right? If there's enough support.
But it would require 2 votes.
The vote duration, so it's not by conviction.
Oh, right.
That duration. But I mean, there's no reason that you couldn't start a decision vote and a snapshot at the same time.
I know it may require a lot of work, but is there a possibility in the long term to actually have a different set of voting parameters or different voting instance for specifically this wallet?
Yeah, I mean, you could just plug in another voting app and have it with its own parameters. I don't know how that would work with the... Oh no, yeah, it would work. It could work.
But you wouldn't want also...
Or not the TC and Giveth. We have a separate Aragon agent that manages just the givebacks.
And that would maintain disputability as well as allowing it to be nimble.
I mean, you would just have to install another disputable voting app. It could be done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and actually, like right now, we had one proposal that already passed, so we are going to do this swap with Giveth for 20k, but then we also still have like 340k, and then I also was reaching out to Gnosis to do like a 50k, like initial proposal of 50k proposal, 50k from TC, 50k from Gnosis, and then yeah, then also when I made that, also the Bright community reached out to me that they would also be interested in doing some swaps. And then there's also the other proposal that Mitch was suggesting to have liquidity, but now with those, I don't know if that still makes sense, but yeah, it's also there. And then there's also a proposal that One Hive is doing with water. It's yeah, I don't know how like Sam have like many things like he don't like about the water who is being done. But yeah, like the idea behind water is like having, like you have 100, and they decreased the number. Before it was 200K, now it's 100K. So we could have like 100K of TC worth of water, then 100K worth of honey worth of water, and then you create like an index. So everyone shares liquidity with everyone inside the water community token, whatever. But then, yeah, like one thing I really don't like about the water system is like it's being controlled by a multisig. So, like it's like one multisig, one member or two members. They still, I mean, this is a very new thing, so it is still under discussion. But it would be something like one or two members from TC, one or two members from Honey and One Hive, one or two members from Variety. There was like 8 communities. I think Ibeth was also there. And then like I would and then we also have this money. Like I would like to like if everyone can choose if that was your money, how would you spend this money between those projects? Maybe like you don't want to put on any of those, so you could also say like save money, and then also there could be like other partnerships like we still do not know, so also save some money.
So I just wanted to ask real quick, because I looked into it a little bit, but I still have a hard time understanding the concept of what water provides. What I assume it is kind of like a subsidized liquidity provision that is collectively done by all projects within the Gnosis ecosystem. Is that correct? I kind of have a hard time grasping it.
Yeah. And then another thing that I do not really like about water is like, like we put 100K of TC, then 100K of water is created from nothing. So we have 200K liquidity, But then I feel, I don't fully understand, but I feel it's like, being, I don't know if any of you did trading anytime, but how people leverage, like, you're leveraging your funds, which means like, okay, when when your community is doing good, it generates more money, but then when it's doing bad, it goes faster down. So that's a risk. Yeah, I just wanted to mention that regarding water. I feel actually like
is water being utilized by all dexes within the Gnosis ecosystem, or is it just like HoneySwap, or is it
it's not even created right now. Like it's actually a proposal.
It's hypothetical.
Yeah, it's very new thing, and they are discussing even how is it going to work.
Just a thought to add, Zepti. I'm not sure about the water system or the leverage you're talking about, but that it could actually be, since we're in the environment of having the bonding curve, it could actually be a good thing, because the volatility of the TEC token should always maintain within the margins of the mint and burn gap on the bonding curve. So if the leverage drives the price down on these secondary markets, then it just encourage people to let's see, if it's driving the price down, then they could buy on people could buy on secondary markets and then burn on the bonding curve. So, which would actually be good for our community, I think, because it's generating tribute. I mean, I think, yeah.
So I need to clarify. Like, so the idea is that water is created once liquidity is provided. So instead of TEC providing TEC tokens and a counterparty token such as like Honey or Give or anything like that, everybody just uses water, and that is what is. And water serves as kind of this universal liquidity provision counterparty. I need better understanding, and I don't know if anybody else has trouble with this, but the idea is really neat, but I just don't have a good concept.
Same. Where can we even find out more about it, Zep?
It's on the One Hive forum, and then I made also a forum on the TC, which is linked to the One Hive forum. And yeah, I mean, water can be awesome, but I also want to mention, like, also can be super dangerous, because if water fails, like, all the gardens are there, so it could hurt all our economies we're creating. So that's why we need to be very careful, like, with everything that's going on in water. I'm not saying, like, we should not go
I think
there.
that's where it's promising, though.
We should know the risk.
I think that water is a good idea. That's what I'm hear a lot of, like, watch out. But does anybody think this is a good idea?
I hear why it's potentially a good idea. It does just generating liquidity, and it's kind of like a utility that's used across space. Like, if everyone's doing this, then it kind of But I do understand Zeppy. Like, also, if everyone's doing this, then it's kind of a central point of failure. I'm hearing all the risks, but overall, I still understand that this sounds like a good idea. It sounds like an opportunity.
Yeah, it's like mutually assured liquidity. It's if somebody fails, everybody does.
I was in the One Hive post and I couldn't find, like, a link to an app or a platform or something. Was I missing something in the post?
Yeah, there are many discussions in the DMs. I was just looking at them because Sam was around. But yeah, I mean, it's a very new thing. I also see the potential, and if everyone is there, I think it's also nice, not to be excluded from what other communities close are doing. But then there's also all those risks. Like, it also depends how they end up building this water thing. Like, if we, if we go to their forum and say, like, we like the idea, but we don't like, this multi-sigs or this stuff, or making this leverage thing. Our opinion also matters. So I think the idea overall is good, but then also have so many risks.
So I'm kind of reading this for the first time. Am I reading it that these DAO tokens would be basically collateral for water? Like the underlying collateral for the water token, and then people would use XDAI to, as I see here, bid on XDAI on a discounted vesting stream of water?
Yeah, basically, and then it would generate, like, a lot of liquidity. Like, if you have TC that have very low liquidity, I don't know, with XDAI, then you just say in the Honeysock, I want to get some XDAI from my TC, and then with water, like, you're swapping your TC from water is swapping to Honey, Give It, or wherever that have more liquidity with XDAI, and then you get XDAI on your wallet, even if TC have no liquidity.
Water doesn't have any monetary value, does it? It's just a utility token within the system that can't be traded or have value.
I mean, it can be. You can buy water, and water is like, if you buy water, it means, like, you buy Give It, you buy TC, you buy Bright, like, you buy all of them. Like, when you buy ESP 500, you buy all the companies that are inside that index. It's the same.
I feel like this is something they would have to sell us on, and not the other way around.
I mean, it's a proposal that is being created, and it's up to the communities to participate or not, I think.
I feel like it's one of those, we'll cross that bridge when it comes, but...
Sounds like it needs a proposal inverter.
I've no idea about the proposal inverter.
It's okay, Zep. We're on it.
Great. Awesome. Yeah. I don't know. Like, I would actually love like if you guys could jump on the agenda and start typing some numbers. How to put how much money would you like to put into Bright EC, or would anyone want to put Bright EC or Gnosis TC, or buy XDAI to get XDAI TC? Actually, like, yeah, some signaling on how much money, like, actually I'm talking with those communities, so I need to tell them how much money we want to put there. I was talking with the Adam from Bright, and then he was telling me like they normally do 100k swaps with other communities, and I told him like our funds are not that high, we only have 300. So yeah, I don't know, we could start with Bright actually. Like, is there anyone like would like to get TC Bright to share liquidity?
Part of me feels like we're moving really fast on these types of partnerships and these swaps, even with the Give token. Like, I know it's a partner and we're very value aligned, but I just want to ask you this simple question. It's like, what is the benefit of providing liquidity for a Give TEC liquidity token rather than just TEC XDAI?
Because
I just don't understand, like, what is the benefit of having that over just straight XDAI?
Actually, for us, is having this partnership with Giveth benefits the TC so much, because in order to get TC XDAI, you have to get your TC, sell TC, and then you also are dumping a little bit the price, not so much that would worry anyone because of the bonding curve. But then like with 100k, you have 100k liquidity. With 50k, you only have 50k liquidity. But if you do this partnership and then you put 50k, you got 100 liquidity. And actually, Giveth have a lot of liquidity with Honey and with ETH. So, it makes the route of, if you want to get XDAI with your TC, if you have sharing liquidity with Giveth, it's going to be much healthier, and the slippage is going to be way lower.
But we'd have the same amount of liquidity if we just did it with XDAI, and our other token would be a stable coin.
No, you have the half. Because you have, if you put 20k and you sell 10k for XDAI, then you have a liquidity of 10k. Like, if someone wants to get 20k worth of XDAI on TC, like, not happening.
I guess my question is what are we looking to get out of these partnerships, these token swaps? Like, what does each party benefit from it?
Yeah, go ahead, Mitch.
I could be wrong on this, but I think it helps create like a price tether. So basically, like each token in a way is partly collateralized by the other, and so I think like it keeps the price movement in line in certain ways by when you have these liquidity tokens with big volumes linked in them.
Yeah, and for me also, it's like you share this liquidity, and then for example, like TC, if the dollar collapses, then TC we're fucked, because all our money is backed by by DAI. So if we have some partnership with Giveth, Priority, like, our tokens are actually exposed to the market, which if the market goes up, like Bright, like, then Giveth is also linked with Ether, then Bright is also, and then you are more exposed to the ecosystem. But it's also a control risk, because you're not putting there all the money. You are just putting there the amount of money you are comfortably risking.
And if so, hypothetically, if water becomes a real thing and we decide to provide liquidity for multiple tokens right now, we provide liquidity in the short term, but we'll have to undo all of that if we decide to go the water route. Is that correct? Because there would be no real point in providing.
Doesn't have to be. You still have more liquidity. And I actually, like, I feel like it's healthier also, like having these partnerships, then having no. If you have water, then you're linked with everyone. But then, what if you don't want to be linked with some project because whatever reason, water you're linked to them. So if you have, and then having with Giveth that and water at the same time, it means like you're linked with everyone, but you're more linked to Giveth, and it's actually it's
But I do feel like we're attacking multiple problems simultaneously when it's just like, what we want to accomplish is provide liquidity on secondary markets. And so let's figure out how to do that and provide it and then go from there. But I don't know. I have concerns when it comes to just like automatically just saying, okay, we're partners with Giveth. I have no problem with Giveth, and I know that we're very linked with Giveth, but I do see issues with just kind of going for it without more community input. And I know that we have a vote up, but it still brings up questions.
Would you say, like, what issues do you see?
I mean, like, for example, the one that you've given me, like what is it called, Ride?
I don't know right now. Right?
Which one were you proposing?
Oh, Bright ID.
Bright ID. Oh, okay. Yeah. So I don't know. It's one of those things where I'm like, how many tokens do we need to have for liquidity provision, and what are the minimums for the partnerships, and like why is it 50K? Why is it I don't know. There's just a lot of details that seem kind of arbitrary.
Yeah, I mean, this call is just to get some point. Like, actually, all these things are negotiations. So you negotiate with other DAOs, how much you are willing to put there. But then the first, before negotiating with anyone, like we first need to know from us, like, how much money do we want there? Do we want any money? And then, then it's easier to keep the talk with them. But actually, like Bright ID was, what I know at least is like they were, like the whales are chatting about that. So yeah, like actually, if we push,
but
like, it could happen.
I guess this just goes back to like the original topic of the laser tag funds and the purpose of the laser tag funds. Is it strictly to provide liquidity? Do we have scope around what laser tag is supposed to be doing with those funds? What it's supposed to be used for? Is it for partnerships? Is it strictly for liquidity provision? Is it for the reward system? Is it for, I think that we really need to define what laser tag funds are supposed to be used for and what's beneficial for them.
I think it was in the initial buy-in document that we figured that out.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll look that up.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, I could also say it's like it was, if we have someone, like it would get a lot of TC cheaper, like, how we call that, strategic. Oh yeah, Tam,
It's okay. I dropped the initial buy forum post in the agenda, but there were two things. One was strategic partnerships, and the other was secondary market liquidity. And there were some pretty good examples that were given in there. Although now is the time to go beyond the examples and try to figure out what we want to do with it. I guess what I am looking for the options on the table is really what is the expected benefit to the TEC? Is it revenue generation, and then like, ballpark estimation of what that could look like? Is it, I guess what I would look for is like, how does this benefit the TEC? And probably, liquidity and revenue are going to be the two main ways these proposals will benefit the TEC.
Actually, the ones that are in the table now, I see them like, strategic partnership and at the same providing liquidity. Any of those that are in here provide any revenue, because like they are not going on a yield farm or anything. Like they just provide, they're just strategic partnerships that provides at the same time liquidity.
Cool. Then how do we evaluate what is the right partner for the LP? I guess what I'm asking is, how do we even make these evaluations? How do we know whether it's Bright or GNO or any other token?
I mean, could be all of them, or
Well, there's limited funds, but how would we evaluate which are the best partners to engage in the liquidity pool with?
I mean, if you ask me, if that was my money, and I would try to get as much money paired with Gnosis because they are rich and it make and they are value aligned.
Yeah, and what else is like the criteria to make the evaluation?
Yeah.
I feel like the criteria should be, what everyone, like my opinion, your opinion, and everyone's opinion, and then have some kind of agreement in between. But I think like it's for everyone is personal, and then everyone should.
I don't know why it would be like we could just take a whole bunch of options and just throw it in a snapshot instead of us trying to figure it out.
I think I think we could benefit from like a scoring criteria. So we could take like a data-driven approach. So just say, okay, start with our MVV and what are the values of our community and what is our mission, what is our vision, and given an opportunity for partnership, how does it score in terms of moving our mission and our vision forward and aligning with our values? So maybe we could have like 5 criteria and we could evaluate, so we get this sort of data quantitative approach. And then I'm even seeing this from like a mechanistic standpoint. I mean, imagine the DAO as a big machine, right? And we have this like adapter port. We have like a standard interface to other DAOs. And so I think it starts with the scoring criteria. Does this DAO align with our mission? Are they moving us forward? What are the benefits? And then how do we plug in? How do we connect? And what we're seeing here is a very mechanistic way of connecting the mutual liquidity, the LP revenue. So we can have a mechanistic. These are kind of the two ends of the spectrum, like what Zepti said, and the snapshot approach is like, what's everyone's opinions? Like, let's hear it, let's get it all out. What's the culture? But on the other end of the spectrum, we could start thinking about a data-driven approach to this. And yeah, and while I'm on, I also just want to say major praise to Zepti, Nate, Mitch, Tamara for leading this conversation. It's really not easy. It's really technical. There's always risk involved in any sort of planning like this, but it's still very important that we do it and we take that step forward. It's pretty complex matters, so just major praise to those who are leading this conversation.
I just want to say outside of yeah, I do too. But outside of the mechanistic aspects of it and the social alignment, which I think a lot of projects are already socially aligned with us, especially within the Gnosis ecosystem, is that it comes down to value in terms of the TEC token versus the value of other tokens that we're pairing with. Because, if I look at a project like Bright Idea, yeah, long term, I see it as being a very valuable token, but in the short term, I do not. And so when it comes to maintaining the value of the tokens that we do hold that are help generating revenue, if possible, then the liquidity provision, especially if it's short term, and that we evaluate it on that basis. But that is just one perspective, and so I just would rather, unless we're saying we're providing liquidity provision with another group and we're not going to move that LP at any time, I would hate to see a valuable TEC token go up and then have the Bright ID token just be, 10, 15 cents a year and a half from now, and we lose out on the value of the token that we have.
But it's always limited to the amount you put in the LP. Like if you put 10K, 20K, 100K, you can only lose. TEC actually is a very stable token because of the bonding curve. And then you limit your risk with the amount of money you put there. And it's actually, it's, like how much do you want to be exposed to the ecosystem? If also if the ecosystem grows a lot and, the TEC will have actually unless we stop the bonding curve, it's not, very easy to. It grows pretty slow compared with other tokens that they have limit.
I think there should be a list made of whatever TC is looking to get from shared liquidity. Because like pretty much all the ideas or examples here sound like valid points. But for example, if you look at the Giveth Red ID LP on Honeyswap, they have like more than $100,000 of liquidity, but the volume is close to zero, and so like it checks one point, which is the alignment. I guess you get you're sort of tied to the price of, in this case, Giveth and Bride, but it doesn't actually provide any utility because seems like no one is really interested to go the Giveth right route. So I like the YGG data driven way and see if we can sort of make the best out of the TC, the multi-sig.